Hello, welcome back. This is Jeff Beyer, your instructor for ANY 150, and this is part 4 of our table and chairs scene. And in our last video, I wanted you guys to give it a try to see if you can make a glass, and this is what I kind of came up with. Very simple. We used a cylinder and extruded it down, so I'll kind of take you through that if you need some help. So I'm going to go ahead and click on a cylinder, move it up, and kind of scale it down. Now I'm going to give you kind of a heads up on how to do this differently. You can usually use the R key, which is your scaling tool, to scale it up and down, but you can also do this. Go into, under Channel Editor, go into the Poly Cylinder 3, and you can use the radius. Okay, the radius, and what I'm doing is I'm highlighting radius, and I'm using my middle mouse button and moving it back and forth to get the kind of look that I want. And if I go in perspective mode, I'm going to hit the F key to frame it. I want to have add another subdivision on top, so I'm going to go to Subdivisions Caps under Polycylinder, highlight it, and I can just type it in if I want to. I can add 2, so enter. You can see I've got another subdivision, and I'll have it on top and on the bottom. The reason why we don't want to do 2 subdivisions, we're still modeling in low poly, so you got to be careful with how many polygons you have in your scene. I'm going to hit the Q key. I went to edge mode, and I'm going to double click on that edge, and it should highlight the whole ring around there. And then I'm going to hit the R key and scale it out to the thickness of the glass. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is click off, hit the Q key, and I'm going to use my paint selection tool. Okay, you can scale that by holding the B key down and moving the left mouse button back and forth. You want it fairly large, and you just want to hit, oh, I got it in edge mode, so I'm going to go to face mode. So right click and go to face mode, and then just kind of highlight just the top part. Okay, double check, make sure you don't have anything on the bottom. Now I can't see on the bottom, but if I hit the 4 key, I can see through everything and look at it that way to make sure I don't have anything else selected. When you extrude, you do not want anything else selected like any other faces. Okay, hit the 5 key again, and I'm going to go Control E, which is extrude, and I could use these manipulators here for arrow. I could click on the blue arrow, okay, and move it down, or I could just hit the W key and move it down. Okay, I'm gonna go, I can't really see how deep I'm going, so I'm gonna go to the side view, and that shows wireframe, so I'm gonna bring it down to where I think it would look good as a glass. Okay, and that's it. Click on select. And I also held down the D key as in dog and moved the pivot point to the bottom so I could go ahead and then hit the R key and scale it down to size. That's basically how I made my glass. Okay. All right, I'm going to delete that because I've already got my glasses in here. Now, one thing I did notice is that the outside is really, really smooth, right? And the inside's kind of jaggedy looking, and that is what we call faceting. So if I grade you and I see, if I say the word faceting, it means I can see the lines of the model. Okay, it's okay to have sharp edges on top, but you don't want sharp edges on something that needs to show round and be round and smooth, right? So how do we fix that? We want to go in here and select all of the edges that form the outside and inside. Even though the outside is smooth, it's just easier to do this than selecting them one by one. Okay, otherwise I'd be doing this, selecting each one by one, holding the shift key. Okay, that takes way too long. So all you have to do is kind of rotate around a little bit, marquee select it, make sure you don't select anything else except the parts you want to smooth, and hold down the space bar, go to mesh display and soften edge. Okay, hit the Q key again. And you can see that when I go into selection mode, click off anywhere, that I've got a nice smooth surface on the outside and inside. You also want to look at everything else in your scene, and I noticed that most of my glasses unfortunately have a faceted edges. So I'm going to frame all those, rotate around, and just do this really quickly. You can see how fast I can do this, and soften edge. And then when you do a couple of them, what's really cool is that it's already in edge mode, and I'm going to select that, and I can hit the G key. The G key will re-invoke my last action. So I'm going to hit that one, and you can see that even though that was jagged before, it's not anymore. So that's a time saver, hitting the G key. If you want to do the same tool again, you want to use the same tool, just hit the G key. There we go. Whoops, that time I didn't do it. So I'm gonna have to go in there and mesh display and go to soften edge. Usually the G key will work. It re-invokes the last action that you did. All right, that looks good. What is next? Well, what's next is we need to add a floor and walls, and that's fairly easy. So I'm just going to click on this guy right here under poly modeling in the shelf. I'm going to click on the floor, like clicking on a plane. That's what it's called, polygon plane. And I'm going to go ahead and scale that up. Okay, and I want it to be the size of my grid. So that's easy enough for you guys to follow. All right. And we don't need all the subdivisions. Again, this is a low poly scene, so more subdivisions is more than what we need. And under subdivisions, if you look under the inputs under the channel editor, you can go in here and make changes to this. So I can change this just to 1, and I'm going to change this to 1, and then I'm going to just pull up 2 walls. Okay, so I'm going to I'm going to go to edge mode, click on this edge. You can hit the Q key and click on that edge, and then shift select, click on that edge. Okay, all you have to do is do a Control E. Okay, you can again just use the arrow here, or hit the W key and use the arrow here. Okay, so we're just making floor and some walls, which is kind of fun. And so that's great. So now I'm going to show you how to create some windows. Okay, some cool looking windows. We're getting the sun coming in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here, go to selection mode. If it's still turned blue, just go up to under the main menu bar and click on this guy right here, this icon, which is select by object type. So click on that, and then try right clicking, go to selection mode, and it should turn green. For this next operation, you need it to turn green. Okay, so I'm going to hold down the shift key and my right mouse button, not my left, my right mouse button, and click on insert edge loop tool. Okay, now I'm going to click on the edge up here where I'd like to start my window. If I make a mistake, no big deal. So I'm going to click on this edge right here, and notice it goes all the way through. Okay, so we're going to just hold on, and if I hold my mouse down as I'm clicking on top here, I can move it around. Okay, if I just click on it, it just shoots it all the way through. Okay, but if I click and hold, I can move it around until I like where it is. That's kind of a cool little function. I'll try it again for you. So if I click on this edge here and just hold it down instead of just clicking, I can move it until I'm happy with where it's at. Okay, and I'm going to do another line right here, another edge right there. I'm going to do one here, and I'm going to do one here, like that. I'm also going to do one on this wall as well. So I'm going to make this window a little bit closer to the wall edge right here. And I'm going to try to make them about the same width, right? So they look like they belong. Okay, there we go, like that. And then I'm going to make another one here and do the same kind of width here, like that. Great. Hit the Q key to get out of the tool that you just used. Okay, all right. So now I'm going to right click and go to face and click on the face and hit delete. I'm going to click on this face and hit delete, and click on this face and hit delete. Okay. And there's a couple ways of keeping this fairly low poly. So I'm going to show you how to extrude the frame of the window right here. So I'm going to do the same thing. I can go to selection mode, hold down the shift key, right click, and go to insert edge loop tool. Okay. Now this time I'm going to click on this edge right here. Okay. Now I'm going to do the thickness of the frame of the window. Okay. I'm going to do that on the sides. Just try to be consistent. You can just do guesswork. It's just guesswork here. Just trying to keep that width about the same. Again, I'm holding it, like when I click on an edge, I'm holding it down so I can move it around to get the thickness that I want. Okay. And this is something you just got to kind of work on. I'm going to click on that edge here, get as close as you can, and try to keep consistently the width consistent to the others. Okay, like that. And don't worry if it's not exactly right. It's easy to move these later, so let me show you. So if you make a mistake or you feel like you make a mistake, I'm going to hit the Q key to get out of the tool. Q key to get out of the tool. And I can, if I make a mistake, let's say over here. So if I have this selected and I don't know how to deselect, just deselect anywhere out of that object. So it'll deselect it. If I make a mistake, let's say this line, this edge is too far down, I can double click on it and that it follows the edge loop, and then I can move it up and down. And you can do that to any of your edge loops. Okay. If you make mistakes, you can always go back, double click on them and move them around. Okay. So the walls and the floor are all one model. Okay. So I'm going to go in here and go to face mode, hit the Q key, and I'm going to select this face and all the faces that I want the frame to follow. And I'm going to do that for every one of these. I'm holding down the shift key as I'm doing this to select more than just one face. So the shift key allows you to select multiple faces as you click. So I've got all of my edges, all my faces the way I want it, and all I have to do is go click Control E. Now here's the cool thing. Now you can't just hit W key now. You have to select the arrow key to pull, and that will pull all of the frame, all the windows at the same time. Pretty cool. Just like that. And because we're not going to be on the outside, it doesn't matter what that looks like. All we care about is how the inside looks. And there we go. There's our scene.